Thank you for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and with me are Faith Rogers, who will be making a statement after I make a statement. Then we will be hearing from her mother, who is Kelly Rogers, who is to my right. After Ms. Rogers, we are going to hear from Michelle Kramer, who is to my far right. And she will introduce herself, mother of Dominique Gardner. And then we're going to hear from Lydia Agu, who is the attorney who filed a lawsuit for Ms. Rogers. Then Lydia and I will take questions. Faith will take questions, but the moms will not be taking questions. So we are here today to let Mr. Kelly know in no uncertain terms that he cannot and will not intimidate his alleged victims into keeping silent about their allegations. Faith Rogers and her mother are with us at this press conference. We have evidence that Mr. Kelly has engaged in efforts to intimidate and retaliate against Faith Rogers. We will present this evidence for the first time today. Faith Rogers filed a lawsuit against Robert Sylvester Kelly, AKA R. Kelly, which is still pending in the New York Supreme Court, detailing what she alleges is Kelly's victimization of her. In response to Faith's lawsuit, Mr. Kelly retaliated against her by threatening to reveal what he alleges are details of her sex life. In addition, he posted private photos of her. One threat was contained in a letter Mr. Kelly wrote to Lydia Hills, AKA Lydia Agu, an attorney for Ms. Rogers, as follows, quote, "If she persists in court action, she will be subjected to public opinion during the discovery process. For example, my law team is prepared to request the production of the medical test results proving the origin of her STD claim, as well as 10 personal male witnesses testifying under oath about her sex life in support of her claim, and complete records of her text FaceTime message exchanges," end quote. Faith is not the only alleged victim whom R. Kelly has attempted to intimidate into silence. In response to the allegations of his many alleged victims, as contained in the recent Lifetime documentary, Kelly's attorney has appeared to threaten a lawsuit against Lifetime. And according to news reports, someone associated with Kelly's team launched a Facebook page called, quote, "Surviving Lies," end quote, to allegedly discredit his accusers. Reports indicated that the page was, quote, "swiftly taken down for violating Facebook's policy on bullying or sharing others' private contact information," end quote. News reports also claim that Mr. Kelly is threatening to sue everyone involved in the documentary. It seems that Mr. Kelly is taking his playbook from Donald Trump, who threatened to sue the women who came forward during the campaign to speak about his behavior towards them. In fact, although it may be a coincidence, Mr. Kelly was recently confronted by the police at Trump Tower in Chicago, where he was residing. Mr. Kelly's attorney, Stephen Greenberg, said the singer will, quote, "hopefully sue Lifetime," end quote, in his first interview with ABC News since the release of Lifetime's Surviving R. Kelly. I say to Mr. Kelly and his attorney, be careful what you hope for. All of these attempts to intimidate and threaten our clients and others will not work. Mr. Kelly, your disgusting tactics will not prevent women who allege that they were victimized from telling their truth. In addition to Faith's mother, Kelly Rogers, Ms. Michelle Kramer, the mother of Dominique Gardner, is also with us today. Her daughter, Dominique Gardner, also allegedly suffered for years from Kelly's misconduct. These mothers have an important message which they wish to convey to R. Kelly. In addition, we have an appointment today with the New York City Police Department, who have asked to meet with Faith in furtherance of their investigation into potential victims of R. Kelly. We will offer our full and complete cooperation in their investigation. Prosecutors in Chicago and Atlanta are also seeking information from potential victims, and we plan to offer them our cooperation as well. Mr. Kelly, you may soon join the ranks of Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. Just as they have been and are being held accountable for their actions, you also must be accountable. You can look forward to a legacy which will not be your music, but rather the pain and suffering that you inflicted on the many vulnerable teenagers and young women who claim they were victimized by you. You may rest assured that I will do everything in my power to support those who claim that they are victims. And I represent 3 alleged victims of R. Kelly. Before we go to the next person, we are providing to you what Mr. R. Kelly sent, at least in part, to Ms. Agu. I'm not attaching certain attachments which I think were meant to demean her, and to the best of our knowledge, he never filed this, but he sent it to her. And you, just so that to save time, if you want to look for the quote that I read, it's on the page in which the date October 22nd appears. And I can point that out to you afterwards. All right, now we would like to hear from Faith. And so Faith, why don't you and I change places? Okay.
Taking a stand against R. Kelly, someone who's been termed the king of R&B and is loved by many, has not been easy. I decided after a great deal of thought that I should speak my truth, because it is time I stand up for myself. I trusted him and he betrayed my trust. Once I recognized my worth, I knew I had to walk away. No woman should be victim shamed, harassed, or retaliated against because she assured her rights and spoke her truth. Robert Kelly, the Faith Rogers you knew that you met when I was 19 years old no longer exists. She was vulnerable and impressionable. The 21-year-old Faith Rogers you're seeing now is much wiser and much stronger. I have learned not to ignore the signs of abuse, manipulation, or intimidation. I also have a message for young women who have heard my story. Please take heed and precaution when involving yourself in a relationship. Also, if you're abused, don't be afraid to acknowledge it, and don't be afraid to report it. There is absolutely no excuse for abuse, and no one deserves to be afraid. Please recognize that any man who truly loves you will not abuse you. If you are in a relationship with someone who is a celebrity or someone you think has much more power than you, please understand that your life has just as much value and that you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. I will never allow myself to be disrespected, and neither should you. Thank you.
My daughter is Faith Rogers. For the past 9 months, my husband and I have received threats and attempts to intimidate us. Our character has also been defamed. We have received threats in the media and have received threatening phone calls and text messages. Although these threats were intended to cause us fear and to back down, it has only made us stronger. We will not back down. R. Kelly's predatory behavior has destroyed the lives and the innocence of many women for the past 2 decades. His behavior has altered the lives not only of his victims, but their families as well. We encourage those who are still afraid to speak out to come forward. You are not alone, and your voice matters. Together, we are stronger. It is very upsetting to see Robert Kelly's arrogant and defiant attitude towards the victims that have come forward against him. He has said he has injected the world with his music, and the world loves R. Kelly. And he thinks his supporters will stick with him no matter how much comes out about his predatory behavior. We urge all those who may like R. Kelly's music to think about their young daughters and ask themselves the following questions. Is this someone that I really want to support? Can I separate the music from the man? Can I ignore what he has done to many of his victims? We love and support Faith Rogers. The time is up for Robert Sylvester Kelly, and we urge you to take a stand and mute R. Kelly. Thank you.
I am the mother of Dominique Gardner. My daughter Dominique was in an abusive relationship with R. Kelly. I am here today in support of the bruised warriors who have come forward and those who haven't yet found their courage. As a mother, I have a message for him. I and other mothers are watching you. If you attempt to bully or retaliate against our daughters for speaking their truth, we will take appropriate action against you. Our daughters are not alone in this battle. We love our brave daughters, and the fact that you are a celebrity will never stop us for doing what we can to support and protect them.
Good morning. Since we filed the civil suit against Mr. Kelly in New York Supreme Court, Faith Rogers has been subjected to online bullying, harassment, victim shaming, retaliation, and receiving threats. This is unacceptable. We are unbothered, and we will not back down. We will be relentless in our fight to make sure that Faith Rogers is not silenced and that Robert Kelly is brought to justice.
Thank you. Okay, so, where should sit here? Okay. All right. Faith and Lydia and I will take questions. Yes. And could you speak, as loudly enough so everybody can hear the question? I'll also try to repeat it if only I can hear it.
Okay, thank you. His lawyers have made statements saying the women who lived with him were consenting adults, of sound mind, all of that. What's the response to that argument?
Okay. Whether or not someone was an adult is irrelevant if in fact that person has evidence that they were abused. Not everyone who's made allegations against Mr. Kelly were adults at the time that they allege that he abused them. Faith was an adult, young adult. But that is not an excuse, nor is it a justification. So I think that is not relevant. I will say I do represent someone who is not here and whom I will not name. One of the three that I represent was not an adult at the time that she met him. But that's all I'm going to say about her right now because she's not here.
Does her case fall within the statute of limitations, the one that you're saying is under?
Yeah, I thank you for your question, but I'm not going to make any other comments about her allegations,
So again,
or any potential case that she may have, and she hasn't filed one yet.
saying she was underage when she had sex with R. Kelly?
I'm sorry, I have no further comment about the person that I represent who is not present, or her allegations.
I have a question for Faith.
Oh, all right, okay, and then we'll take your question.
Oh,
All right,
she asked it.
question for Faith?
We spoke back in May. We talked
Okay, you
about
want to sit
not-
here so you can,
Sure.
everybody can hear your answer? Okay.
When we spoke back in May, you talked about doing things that you didn't want to do because you felt like you had to do them.
Right.
When you say now that you are warning young girls to take heed and caution, what do you mean by that?
When I say take precaution, that means if you hear my story, listen to what I'm saying, and if you run into somebody who falls underneath that same category, has the same patterns, go the other way.
When's the last time you had a conversation with R. Kelly?
Last year.
When?
Well, we can't go into dates and times right now, but
Can you tell us what that conversation was? that you
I can just tell you the conversation was had last year, and I'm not commenting on it anymore.
And what would you say to him if he's watching right now?
Time's up.
okay. Thank you. Another question for Faith?
Can you talk about how you met R. Kelly,
Yeah, I think she's not going to talk about how she met him or
how long?
any statement that she made, on Lifetime. We're really here today about the allegation of retaliation and threats. So we would respectfully refer you to any prior interview she's done. If you want to email me some questions afterwards, we can see if we can get those answered.
Can we ask just how Dominique is doing?
Okay, wait, let me just take that question over there, and then we'll come back.
In the so-called intimidation letter that he sent.
Yes, the letter, she's referring to the letter which I referenced, and a copy of which you have
Yes.
from Mr. Kelly, yes.
Yes. In what he is suggesting he will do if she presses forward with her allegations,
Okay. Why don't you move here, and do you want to deal with it, or do you want me to answer it? Okay. First of all, what he said about calling 10 male witnesses or potential witnesses, there's something called the rape shield law that in many states would not allow others who are alleged to have engaged in sexual activity with the plaintiff to be called as witnesses, unless somehow they are relevant to the case and their testimony is more probative than prejudicial. So I see this as a threat, and that's the way we take it. By the way, again, we have no information that this was in fact ever filed. Is that correct, Lydia?
That's correct.
All right.
So Ms. Rogers is alleging she was raped?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Ms. Rogers is alleging she was raped?
You know, I will let the lawsuit speak for itself.
Can we ask how Dominique is doing? I know you
I'm
said-
sorry, I can't hear.
Can we ask how Dominique is doing? She was also featured in that docuseries.
I think Michelle is not going to be answering any other questions. Any questions today, nor is Kelly going to be answering any questions, but thank you for it. Yes?
So, can you talk about harassment and intimidation? Did it only come in the form of this letter that you have in the packet, or were there other forms?
It's everything that we have previously indicated at this press conference today, but that's a specific example which bears his signature, at least according to him. That's his signature. He went and had it notarized. He has the notary endorsement attached. So to me, that is the clearest statement by Mr. Kelly of what he is suggesting to Faith through the letter to her attorney.
Ms. Allred,
Yes.
When you meet with the NYPD later, will you be seeking to press criminal charges here in New York against Mr. Kelly?
It is up to the prosecutor to decide if, as, and when any criminal case should be filed against anyone. So Faith is just there to provide information, and then it'll be up to the prosecutor's office to decide if any criminal case should be filed, whether there should be further investigation first. So that'll be up to them. We don't have a position right now, except that she is doing her duty to provide information that is requested by them. And that had to be done in person, and that is why she's in New York. To do this in person, and, you know, her attorneys will be with us. Lydia and I will be with her for that meeting.
Will you, if you're asked to file a criminal complaint, will you file a complaint?
Well, she's there to provide information. That's all I'm saying, to answer the questions that they ask. Fully and truthfully, from her point of view, that's what she's going to do. So, one step at a time. She's doing the report by speaking to them. Yes?
The meeting was at the request of the NYPD, or did you reach out to them?
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question.
The meeting was at the request of the NYPD, or did you reach out to them?
They are aware of her allegations, and I'll just leave it at that. Yes?
For the people that
Oh, you know what, how, in other words, what was going through her mind, is that what you're saying?
Going through her mind, what was transpiring? How
What,
did
with,
she
in
end
her,
up
in her encounters with Mr. Kelly? I think we're not going to go back into that today, but I do believe that she has, I mean, she has spoken on the Lifetime documentary, she's done other interviews. So, all I can tell you, obviously, is she's warning others, and I think it's very commendable of Faith to be caring about young women, other young women at a time like this, because often other young women do become victimized by celebrities, or not celebrities, but people who are powerful in their lives.
The woman who you represent, who you say was underage when something happened with R. Kelly that may be criminal, is that fair to say that?
I'm sorry, I am not going to have any other comment
Okay.
on the other alleged victim. Are there any other questions?
Hi there, Alfredo with TMZ. Obviously, you feel that R. Kelly is at fault here. Why do you think his actions were overlooked for so long? And who else would you place the blame on?
Why were his actions overlooked for so long? And I couldn't hear the second part of your question.
And who else would you place the blame on?
And who would I place the blame on? Well, in reference to what we have made public today, which is what we are suggesting is a threat and appears to be an attempt to intimidate her, only Lydia and I have been aware of that previously. No one else has been aware of that. So this is the first time that's being made public. As to the second part of your question, on whom do we place the blame for inaction? Well, since this particular point has not been made before, there is no one to blame. The only one who needs to take responsibility for this threat is R. Kelly. And R. Kelly can now see the picture of who is at this table. Faith and many other victims have support. They are not in this alone. So, Mr. Kelly, if you think that they're vulnerable, you're wrong. Faith has widespread support, and so do other persons who allege that they are victims as well. Are there any other questions?
So I'm just confused about the timing. So is the timing of today's press conference in concert because you were coming into New York City to talk to the NYPD?
We needed to come to New York. Of course, Lydia practices here, lives here. I'm licensed in New York, but I'm not here every day. Because it was our understanding that she needed to meet in person with the detectives, with the investigators. And so she did that. She came for the purpose of meeting with the investigators. But the investigators are certainly going to be aware about this particular statement that Mr. Kelly has made in his letter to Lydia, and to me that is something that needs to be investigated as well. As well, yes, as the posting of images of her online private photos, which she never gave permission to post, and which we allege were done in retaliation for her filing the lawsuit, and perhaps for also speaking out on the Lifetime documentary and elsewhere. Any person who attempts to threaten or intimidate a potential witness in a case, this happens to be a civil lawsuit she filed, should think twice before he or she does so, because that would be of great concern if in fact the intent was to intimidate a witness. We're not handing out the lawsuit today, but this is a copy of the lawsuit that she filed and that he alleges that he is responding to, although in a form which I don't think would be acceptable to the clerk for filing. And it does ramble on and doesn't make a lot of sense, except the part that I pointed out, which I think appears to include a threat. But that is the lawsuit. It is online on the court's webpage. Anything further?
Just so I understand this timeline, just to clarify, these photos that were posted came after the airing of the docuseries or more in concert with this letter?
So,
It was after.
once the
You want to sit in front here?
Sure.
Go ahead. That was after, just recently. Just recently, but go ahead.
Well, once we filed the lawsuit
A little louder.
in New York Supreme Court, we received a response from Mr. Kelly, and attached to that response were some photos and text, which indicated that if Ms. Rogers proceeded with the lawsuit, these photos and images would be made public. Well, after the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries aired, he proceeded to, or someone proceeded to post these exact same photos that were mailed to my office on Facebook.
And then Facebook took them down,
That's correct.
for the reasons I stated in my statement.
That's correct.
Was it on someone's Facebook account and someone directly posted it, or?
He created a page, or someone created a page called Surviving Lies on Facebook. The page lasted no more than, a page entitled Surviving Lies was created on Facebook. The page lasted no more than 7 or 8 hours because Facebook took it down. But that page included images of Ms. Rogers and another young woman that we believe were provided by Mr. Kelly.
Okay, anything further? We have time maybe for one more question. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, and that's it.